Diego asking, Brandon Aiyuk and Tee Higgins are still potentially available. What do you think we should be willing to give up for guys like that? Welcome into a mailbag, by the way, here at Falcons Today. Our live shows air every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, although this upcoming week, due to the draft, we'll be going live on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so come hang out with us. But I don't think Tee Higgins is all that available. I think Cincinnati is pretty much dug in on, we're going to go all in for 2024 of the last year of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Tee Higgins. And if that means that we don't get a great return for Tee Higgins or anything for Higgins because we hold on to him for his franchise tag season, so be it. We want to try and get a ring out of 2024 Joe Burrow. So Brandon Aiyuk, so I got hiccups all of a sudden. Brandon Aiyuk, on the other hand, this is a much more juicy story because we're having some very petty, shots across the bow here between the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk. You can look at his stats. The former first-round pick didn't make a splash necessarily to begin his career. I remember when he started off in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse. And then the last 2 years, he really turned a corner. I mean, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, averaged nearly 18 yards a reception last year for the Niners. What it would cost to get Brandon Aiyuk, the 49ers are going to want a first-round pick. That much is certain. I'm not giving up the 8th overall pick for Brandon Aiyuk. But what about this? What about a pick swap? Brandon Aiyuk and pick 31 for pick number 8. I'm interested. I am interested. One, I think Brandon Aiyuk is going to be a better football player than Dallas Turner, who is likely the selection at number 8. And you still have a first-round pick at 31. I'd be interested in this one. Not really sure how much interest Atlanta would have or the 49ers. I think San Francisco is determined to keep Aiyuk. They went through this process with Deebo Samuel. They got something figured out. Aiyuk's agent and the 49ers GM, they are best friends. One of them was the best man in the other one's wedding. So I'm sure that the 49ers are going to figure out a way to hold on to Aiyuk. But, man, would you rather have Aiyuk in the 31st overall pick or Dallas Turner? I'd go with Aiyuk in the 31st overall pick. Austin, next one up on the show. If Dallas Turner is gone at 8, who would the Falcons take instead? Let's say the draft goes Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and then Tennessee goes Dallas Turner instead of Joe Alt. I'm going to say Rome Odunze. And in fact, I would actually rather have Rome Odunze than Dallas Turner because I think Rome Odunze is a better draft prospect. Now, I know wide receiver is not as big of a need for the 2024 Falcons as edge rusher is, and they're going to have a really bad pass rush if they don't address it in round 1. But if it's not Turner, Odunze is my next guy for the Falcons. And if it's not Odunze, I would go Terrion Arnold from Alabama. Jason Greenway, are you going to have a draft party? I'll be waiting. We will be live for the first round of the NFL draft here on Falcons Today. So come hang out with us. We'll be live before the NFL draft starts. I think I'm going to go live 60 minutes before round 1 kicks off. And then we'll be live through the first about 18 or so picks. And then I got to shift over to our main chat sports coverage here, our main channel, the Mothership, and help out on that front. So follow me along over there as well. But yeah, we'll be live for pick number 8. Now, before we get to the rest of the questions on today's show, make sure to check out our wonderful sponsor today, which is Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform in all of North America, because it's super simple, easy withdrawals, and it's a lot of fun as well. Like, I had a friend come in town a few weekends ago. He had never heard of Prize Picks. He downloaded the app, and then we started playing along, and it just gets you locked in for some games that you may not have had a big rooting interest in before. So the thing I've been going with all offseason long is the 2024 season-long projections. I really like Kirk Cousins at 4,099.5 yards. Also like the less on Jalen Hurts' passing yards because I just don't think Hurts is going to have the football in his hands as much with Saquon Barkley coming over. So I like Barkley more on his rushing yards as a result as well. So if you like these selections, feel free to hop along, have some fun this entire upcoming season with me. And download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS. Say it with me, CLNS, for a first-time deposit match up to $100. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. We got Jordan Grace. How do you feel about Deion Sanders saying he wants his son Travis Hunter in Atlanta? Deion even tried to make calls to try to get the Falcons to draft him next year. I'm not focusing on next year's draft. I can't do that to my brain. I have already spent so much time devoted to learning everyone in this year's draft. No, we can cross that bridge when we get there next year. I will add that every single year, like the first mock draft you see after the draft ends, like the day after the NFL draft, we're going to see a way too early 2025 mock draft. It's almost like it's, an unwritten rule that one of the first quarterbacks in that draft will end up sucking in college football. Like Sam Howell was supposed to be the first overall pick one year. He went round 5. Spencer Rattler was supposed to be the first overall pick one year. He didn't even enter the draft. So let's pump the brakes on next year's draft. Aaron, what's going on? See any other surprise trade partners for Falcons pick? I've heard the Rams really want to go offensive line. And they are back in the first round for the first time since Jared Goff. I don't think they would feel the need to jump all the way to 8. I mean, if you think about where the Falcons are sitting, the Bears at 9, their offensive line I don't think is going to see an addition in round 1. Maybe, but I'd be a little surprised. I think the Bears are going Rome Odunze at number 9. The Jets at 10 are not going offensive line. The Vikings at 11, I don't think they'll stay at 11, so that's kind of hard to predict. The Broncos at 12 are not going offensive line. The Raiders at 13, they could go offensive line. So if the Rams were going to jump up, I don't think it would be all the way to 8, maybe to 12 with Denver. I know that the Colts really, really want Brock Bowers, or at least that's the rumor. I shouldn't say I know as a fact. So if that's the case, do they try and jump the Jets, who could have interest in Bowers as well? Those would be 2 teams, Aaron, that I think could move up to 8. Go Dogs 23. Do you see the Falcons adding free agency players after the draft? Yeah, absolutely. I don't know off the top of my head the exact number of players on Atlanta's roster right now, but you got to think, whatever the number is, let's say it's like 75, okay, plus 8, and that gets you to 83, and then you have 7 spots left for UDFAs and other free agents. So I'm guessing we'll see a few more free agent signings after the draft, but probably not going to see any big ones. I mean, Bud Dupree was signed last year after the draft, right? Or am I making that up? I can't remember. Isaiah Jones, who is our breakout defensive player this year? That's a great question, Isaiah. Let me go with... I've got one, but I'm trying to think if I can think of a better one. DeMarco Hellams. I think he's going to have a really nice year. I remember him last preseason being like, that dude's going to start. It's just a question of when. And he ended the year as a starter over Richie Grant. And when you get to work next to Jesse Bates, you're going to learn a lot of tricks of the trade. So I like DeMarco Hellams, last year's 7th-round pick out of Alabama, as a breakout defensive candidate. I mean, great guys that can't break out because they already broke out are A.J. Terrell, Jesse Bates, Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata. I think it's a little late for like Caden Ellis to break out, and he's a solid player still. So if it wasn't DeMarco Hellams, it would probably be like Clark Phillips, but I like Hellams. Ruben Diaz, how far do you think we could trade back and still get Turner? Ooh, great question, Ruben. I think you could go back to 11. Maybe the Bears take Dallas Turner at 9. Like, they need help at pass rusher really badly. The Falcons and the Bears pass rushers have been bottom of the league the last 2 or 3 years. So he may not get past Chicago at 9, to be honest. But if the Bears really want to go Rome Odunze for Caleb Williams, then I don't think he goes 10 to the Jets. They're loaded on defense. 11's the Minnesota Vikings right now, but I think they're going to trade up, and that will really change things. So I've got no idea who's actually going to be picking at 11. But Denver at 12, I think, would go Dallas Turner if he was there, because they could use some reinforcements at their pass rushing spot. Carson, next one. Do you believe in Zack Harris? Do you believe in a Zack Harrison breakout season? He had a pretty strong strong end to 2023. Like that Jets game really jumps out to me in particular. I think Zack Harrison could have a ceiling of a 5-6 sack player. Probably going to be a little bit of a journeyman-ish, but I think it's very early on in his career, so we don't have a ton to grade him on. But I think Zack Harrison has the potential to put together a 5, maybe 5.5 sack season. And I mean, if he's a rotational defensive lineman, I would definitely take that in a heartbeat. Adam, next one up. Thoughts on drafting a linebacker or offensive line in round 3? I don't think you got to go linebacker. You got 3 starting linebackers already for 2 jobs. Like Caden Ellis, Nate Landman, and Troy Anderson. Now, can I toss you this idea as we talk about the linebackers? We are having a hissy fit over here about the lack of pass rushers. What if you bumped Caden Ellis to outside linebacker and then started Troy Landman and Nate Anderson to get your top 3 linebackers on the field at the same time? Talk about maximizing your 11 starters. As for offensive line, unless they think that Jake Matthews is really starting to slow down, which, hey, he's been in the league for a decade plus, my guess is they're not going to go offensive line in round 3, although this is a very good offensive line draft class. So if there's a guy they think they just can't pass on, then yeah, I could see that. Plus, it's never a bad idea to have good depth at a key position like offensive line. Nathan Teal, what do you feel about wide receivers in the second round? I like some guys in round 2. I'm not really fully understanding like what you are asking, Nathan. I'm sorry, but Ladd McConkey is a name that jumps out to me for round number 2. I don't think Troy Franklin or Jalen Polk are going to be draft targets for Atlanta at pick 43. But Xavier Legette, I really do like. Phenomenal like story in terms of just his drive to continue playing football. But I think he does need a little bit more development in coaching, and I don't think Atlanta is the optimal spot for that. So Ladd McConkey would be my guy for round 2. Michael, next one up. Who would be the biggest reach at 8? Great question, Michael. I would say Laiatu Latu. And he may end up being the best of all 3, so that answer kind of, turns itself upside down. But he had really good production. He's maybe the most skilled pass rusher between Turner and Verse. But I kind of wonder, like, the analogy I gave, and this could be a bad Colin Cowherd analogy, is it's sort of like when you watch Zach Edey at Purdue. And then you know that when he gets to the NBA, the way he won in college basketball will not translate to the NBA. That's the same type of path I see Latu going down, where he got a lot of his sacks and TFLs against Coastal Carolina and Colorado last year. And he doesn't have the best physical skill set, where I have concerns about that taking and translating well to the next level. So I think Latu would be the biggest reach at 8. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. I really appreciate everyone who hangs out all the way to the end of our video. And if you're still watching, go on down and drop an ATL for me.